Welcome to the CAF subject Business Management and Behavioral Studies. In this video, we shall discuss some further topics relating to management concepts. Management concepts constitutes 25% of the ICAP syllabus grid. In this video, we will discuss modern management theories of the following theorists. 1. Peter Drucker, 2. Roosevelt Moss-Cantor, 3. Henry Mintzberg, 4. William Mochi, 5. McGregor, and 6. Management Science Approach. Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker suggested that there are 5 areas or categories of management responsibility. 1. Setting objectives, 2. Organizing work, 3. Motivating employees and establishing appropriate communication channels, 4. Measuring performance, 5. Developing people. Testing and ICAP exams, Spring 15, Marks 8. Question number 2. Ajax Textile Mills Limited is engaged in the business of weaving of clothes. ATML has shown good performance and achieved high rates of return on investment during the preceding 5 years. Explain in the context of Peter Drucker's management theory the factors which may have contributed towards the good performance of ATML. Suggested answer by ICAP. You can see that ICAP has discussed in solution Drucker's 5 areas of management responsibility. 1. Setting objectives, 2. Organizing work, 3. Motivating employees and establishing appropriate communication channels, 4. Measuring performance, 5. Developing people or employees. Peter disagreed with Fayol that general principles of management apply to managers in all types of organizations. He argued that managing commercial business is different from managing other types of organizations, as manager has a key responsibility for key performance of the business. Drucker therefore suggested that there are 3 aspects to responsibilities of managers. 1. Managing the business, 2. Managing managers, 3. Managing workers and their work. Roosevelt Moss-Cantor. She worked on inefficiencies of modern bureaucracy and what organizations need to do to succeed. She argued that over time, traditional bureaucratic organizations had become unacceptably slow. A long hierarchical chain of command meant that information passed slowly through the organization and decisions took a long time to make. The business world had changed. Economic circumstances were different. Competition had increased. Pace of change was much faster, and new technology had made the old ways of doing things within organizations very inefficient. In her book, Teaching Elephants to Dance 1989, she argued that today's corporate elephants need to learn to dance as nimbly and speedily as mice if they are to survive in an increasingly competitive and rapidly changing environment. Cantor argued that rebirth and success of business organizations depends on innovation, entrepreneurship, and participative management. Henry Mintzberg. Mintzberg suggested that reality is different than the role of managers described by Fayol that were to plan, organize, command, coordinate, and control. His research into activities of the managers made the following discoveries. Number 1, planning is done on day-to-day basis when time permits between more urgent to immediate tasks. Number 2, managers spend some of their time on ceremonial nature duties such as meeting with important visitors. Number 3, managers prefer informal verbal communication to formal written communication. Number 4, management activities and decisions are based largely on judgment and intuition. Mintzberg suggested the managers perform 3 main roles which can be further analyzed into 10 different functions. Number 1, interpersonal role as a figurehead, liaison, leader. Number 2, informational role as a monitor, disseminator, spokesman. Number 3, decision-making role as a initiator or improver and changer, disturbance handler, resource allocator, negotiator. Testing and ICAP exams, Spring 15, Marks 8, question number 1A. An important part of functions of managers involve decision-making activities according to their status in the organization hierarchy and their levels of authorities and responsibilities. Briefly describe the various roles which are performed by managers in their decision-making capacities in business organizations. Answer suggested by ICAF. You can see that ICAF briefly discussed the roles of managers as initiator or improver and changer, disturbance handler, resource allocator, negotiator. Mintzberg also challenged that the bureaucratic organization structure is the ideal form of organization in all circumstances. He suggested that there are following 5 building blocks in an organization. Number 1, strategic apex. Number 2, operating core. Number 3, middle line. Number 4, support staff. Number 5, technostructure. Testing in ICAF exams, Autumn 14, Mark 7, question number 9A. Identify and briefly state Mintzberg's 5 building blocks in a typical organizational structure. You can see ICAF discussed strategic apex, operating core, middle line, support staff, and technostructure. Mintzberg argued that the way in which an organization functions depends on which of these 5 groups has the greatest influence. Number 1, if strategic apex is powerful, then the organization is entrepreneurial. Number 2, if technostructure is dominant, then organization will be bureaucratic. Number 3, if middle line is dominant, then organization is divisionalized and local managers have extensive authority to run their own division in the way they consider best. Number 4, some organizations are dominated by the operating core. For example, universities and hospitals, where teachers and doctors have an exceptionally strong influence. Number 5, autocracy, an organization with a complex and disordered structure, making extensive use of teamwork and project-based work. William Mochi, Theory Z. William Mochi made a study of Japanese companies and compared them with companies in the US. He put forward his ideas in a book, Theory Z, How American Management Can Meet the Japanese Challenge. The essential features of Theory Z is set below. 1. American companies offer short-term employment and Japanese companies offer lifetime employment. Theory Z says companies should offer long-term employment, not necessarily for life but much longer than current average in the US. American companies promote individual decision-making and Japanese companies promote collective decision-making. Theory Z says companies should promote collective decision-making. American companies promote individual responsibility and Japanese companies promote collective responsibility. Theory Z says companies should promote individual responsibility. American companies offer rapid promotions and Japanese companies offer slow evaluation of performance and slow promotion. Theory Z says companies should offer slow evaluation of performance and slow promotion. American companies implement formal controls and Japanese companies implement informal controls. Theory Z says companies should implement informal controls with formal control measures. American companies offer specialized career paths for employees and Japanese companies offer non-specialized career paths for employees. Theory Z says companies should offer moderately specialized career paths to employees. American companies have concern for employee as an employee, and Japanese companies have wider concern for employee as person. Theory Z says companies should have wider concern for employee as a person and have concern for the family of the employee. Testing in ICAP exams, Autumn 16, Mark 6, question number 2B. State the important characteristics of Japanese companies as illustrated by William Mochi in Theory Z. Answers suggested by ICAP. You can see that ICAP discussed the following characteristics: lifetime employment, collective decision making, collective responsibility, slow evaluation of performance and slow promotions, informal control mechanism, non-specialized career path, wider concern for employees as a person.